AI is fast becoming a very important tool in every web designer's arsenal. And it's quite evident with the release of WordPress version 7, where they've released the AI connectors and the AI plugin. But for a very long time, there's always been a disconnect between our AI agents and our WordPress website. So, people go onto like ChatGPT, they ask the questions there, then they get the response, and then they use it in their WordPress website. And there's that disconnect. You have to do it on one interface, then you transfer to the other interface and then paste. But now there are solutions to help you bring your AI agent to your WordPress website, connecting it with a bridge. And we'll be looking at one of those solutions in today's video, and it's called Novamira. To get started with Novamira, the first thing you need is your AI agent, which my favorite is Visual Studio Code paired together with the Claude Code extension. But there are other options you can use, such as the Claude Desktop app, which I have opened. Then you can use something like Anti-Gravity. You have Cursor and so many other ones. Or you can go with the core version, which is using your terminal. So either terminal or PowerShell, and you can load up your open code or Claude Code or whatever directly from your terminal. The next thing you need is the token or AI subscription that gets paired with your AI agent. You can get some from Anthropic or from OpenAI and so many other ones. So once you have your AI agent with its subscription, then you need your actual WordPress website. That is what we'll be editing in our project. And finally, we need that bridge between the AI agent and our WordPress website, which is Novamira in this case. You can get Novamira using my affiliate link. The link will be in the description, and that is davedens.link/Novamira. It has the core version, which is the free version on GitHub, which you can go and contribute to. And then it has a pro version, which extends upon the core free version. So if you want to purchase Novamira using my affiliate link, it will help my channel greatly. So thank you. So once you have all of those ready, then you can go to your WordPress website and you head over to plugins, add plugin, then you install your new plugins, which are Novamira and Novamira Pro. I also added some plugins that I'll be interacting with during the course of this video. So once you have all of that installed, then head over to your WordPress sidebar. You see the Novamira option, and the first thing you do is the configuration. But before we go into the configuration, let's check out the features that are provided by Novamira currently. So if you go under Abilities, you can see the abilities that are given to the AI. So these are like giving the permission or what things the AI can do on your WordPress website. So by default, with the core version, we can run WP-CLI codes, we can run PHP, and we can also create skills. Those are the abilities that have been given to Novamira Core. Then the Pro version extends on that and gives you abilities to work with things like your custom fields plugin like ASE, ACPT, ACF, MetaBox, Pods, Jet Engine, and so on. Then we also have abilities for page builders like Bricks Builder, Elementor, and so on. And the abilities that will be surfaced are based on what plugins you have installed. So I have admin and site enhancement installed, so the abilities for that is surfaced. I have Bricks Builder installed, so the abilities for that is also surfaced. And I also have MetaBox installed, and those abilities are surfaced. Next to the abilities are what we call skills. So skills are like specific procedures that the AI can use to perform a specific task, kind of like having the talent to do a specific thing. So whenever the AI wants to perform that task, it will look at that skill to know what are the steps it needs to take to perform the action correctly without mistakes. So those are the kinds of skills we have. We have for ACF, we have for ACPT, ASE, Bricks, and so on. So we have different skills for different tasks, and you can create your own. They have the skill creator skill, which helps you to create new skills using AI, or you can do it manually yourself if you already know what you want. But in the era of AI, you might as well just get the AI to create the skill with your input. So that's it for skills. And then the final thing we have are memory and instructions. Think of the custom instructions as some high-level information that you want the AI to know at the start of your project. You don't need to start telling it what plugins you have installed, because Novamira will already inform the AI agent about your plugins. So all you need to do is just give the high-level information, maybe something like the brand tone or what kind of language you want to be using, things like that. So just high-level information. And then we have memory. The memory are things like our user preferences. So maybe some people like to speak in British English and some of your users like to speak in American English or something. So it will save the memory based on either the user or the project, or as a feedback. Maybe it was performing a task and it had some issues while performing that task and was able to solve those issues. It will save the solution as a feedback, so that whenever it meets that task again, it just calls from the memory to say, okay, this is how I solved it before, and I'm going to use that same method to solve it again. So those are the different things that we have as the abilities and the features of Novamira. Then we also have the sandbox. Any PHP code that Novamira creates is saved in the sandbox, so that if there's any error, you can quickly revert back, delete the code, update the code automatically. Unless you explicitly tell Novamira that you don't want it to save in the sandbox and you want it to save in maybe your code snippets plugin like WP Codebox and the rest of them, then you can explicitly tell it to do that during the course of your interaction. So now that we know all of these, let's go ahead and see how to configure it. So to configure Novamira, just go to configuration and it will take you through step by step. So first, you turn on your AI abilities. The rule is that you should use Novamira on your staging or development site. Then you can push from there to live. I think that's the standard that we advise every user. You should always have a staging site or a development environment. It can even be local, like I have here is a local site. You build everything you want here on the local site. Once you're ready, you can now push from there to the live site. And I have my live sites here as well, so we can see how to push from the development to the live site during the course of this video. So once you have this turned on, I'll save settings. Then the next thing is to create an application password. That is how the AI agent will now gain trusted access into your website. So generate the password. You can go ahead and copy that password if you wish, but you will only be using it right now, so you can always create a new one when you need it. Then the final step is to connect this password to your AI client. So to do that, there are two ways. You can either do it automatically by just copying the prompt and putting it in the chat where your AI agent lives, or you can do it manually by choosing the code that fits your AI client. So something like Claude Code, Claude Desktop, Codex, Anti-Gravity, and so on. You just copy the right code for it and then you put it there. But we're just going to go with the first option, which is to copy the prompt, and I'll head over to my AI client, which is Visual Studio Code with the Claude Code extension, which I just got from the extensions panel. Just search for Claude Code. You get the one from Anthropic. Okay. Then I can start a new session and I just paste that information that I got here. And I can say maybe just edit it to say for the current project. And yes, one thing that I like to do is I create a folder where the project files are going to live. So on my desktop, I created a folder called UAC Nova, and there is where my Claude Code is going to write any file that it's getting there, so that it doesn't just start checking my entire file system. Just put all of the files into this project folder. That is the advice I'll give to you as well. If you're working with like Claude Code or anything, create a folder for each project so that each project is isolated from the next project. So now I can go ahead and click enter. It will run through and make sure that it gets the right place to put your code. So I'm just going to accept, and it will run through, look at everything that is available on your system and put the code in the right place. Okay, so now it has added it, and it has also added the node TLS reject unauthorized because it's a self-signed certificate. So all of that is done. Now we can go ahead and test to make sure that our AI agent is seeing the Novamira MCP. But before we do that, we have to create a new session, because since we added it in the current session, it cannot be seen by the current session. So we have to close the Claude Code and open a new session. And now I'll be using Open Whisper to just speak rather than type. So I'll say, using the Novamira MCP, please check my WordPress website for the list of plugins that have been installed. It goes ahead to list out all of the plugins that I have installed on the site. Now that we've verified that our Novamira MCP server is working properly, we can now start running some tasks with it. Because that's the beauty of AI in WordPress, that it doesn't necessarily have to be all about the design. There are so many things that we can use AI to accomplish so that we can be running those tasks while we are doing other things with our time. So that's the whole purpose. So we'll see some things you can do with the Novamira MCP right now. So let's check them out. So the first task we'll do with Novamira MCP is a bit of cleanup on our WordPress website. Because right now on the WordPress website, I have some themes and plugins that I think are not necessary. So I'm going to tell Novamira to do some cleanup and change the language settings and things like that to fit my needs. So watch what I'll say. Using Novamira MCP, please remove all unnecessary themes, keeping only the 2025 theme as a backup. Delete all sample posts and pages that are not necessary. Then create 4 pages for me, one as the home page, the blog page, the about page, and the contact page. Set the home page as the static front page and the blog as the post page in the WordPress reading settings. And then finally, set my site time zone to be London, and it should be using the English United Kingdom language. Okay, so now all has been done and it's given us a summary. Previously, we had some of the default WordPress themes like Hostinger AI theme, 2024 theme, the 2023 theme, the Bricks child, and the Bricks theme. It saw that those themes are the active ones, so it left that, and then left the 2025 theme because I said it should leave one as a backup. And it created the pages for me, so let's go ahead and check it out. So this is the WordPress website. If I go under Appearance and Themes, you see now we only have Bricks and the Bricks child theme with the 2025 theme. As a reference, I have the live site. If I go to the live site and go to my Appearance and Themes, you see that it initially had all of those unnecessary themes, but now everything has been cleaned up. If you go under the pages, we now have the 4 pages created for us. So the home page, blog, about, the contact page, and they made the home page the front page and the blog page the post page. So everything has been cleaned up. If you go under settings and the general, it has done some cleanup for us. It has put the time zone to be London, site language, English, United Kingdom, and so on. So I can even tell it to check my date format and use it in the British date format and so on. All of that will have been done automatically because you speak in natural language and it understands your natural language and fixes the things that you've specifically asked it to fix. So now the next task we'll do is we'll now start configuring it for our specific project. So I'm going to give it a new task. Let's just open a new session. And in this session, I'm going to ask it to prepare for my current project. So let's say something like this. I'll say, initialize the Claude Code project for Universal Access Conference using the Novamira MCP, and then configure the MCP custom instructions and the memory for this project, and then define what the initial CPT data structure is going to be appropriate for an accessibility conference. So something like the speakers, sessions, sponsors, and things like that. And ask me any questions that are needed before you proceed. So now to go ahead and start preparing our current project for the whole website. Okay, so it will now ask me some questions. So which plugins should own the CPTs? Okay, so I have MetaBox AIO. It's found out that I have multiple plugins that can create CPTs. So it's now asking me which one do I want. So I say MetaBox. Then which entities should I create as CPT? So I'm thinking speakers, sessions, sponsors. Maybe the venues should be a taxonomy. So I think I'll leave the venues alone. Then we can continue. So I'll say partners. Yeah, I think that will be okay. And maybe it's a recurring event. And we say yes, submit. So I'm just thinking about it similar to what we have with the WP Accessibility Day conference. We have it every year. And it is an accessibility conference as well. So I'm just using that as an idea of this website and see what we can come up with. So at the moment, if you look at the WordPress website, we have MetaBox installed, but there are no CPTs currently installed. So no CPTs. If I go under MetaBox, post types, nothing there. Under taxonomies, there's nothing. And under custom fields, nothing. But we'll see what the AI is able to come up with. So it said it has got it, that we have MetaBox, and now it's going to create a to-do list of actions it's going to take. So first, it's to verify the MetaBox AIO setup and the CPT module availability. Then it to initialize the Claude Code project. So checking out the memory and everything within Novamira and all of that. So it will just keep going step by step. Okay, now it has completed the task and we can see everything that it has done. The summary is there. It created a Claude Code project, which captures what we are about to do. Then it set up the custom instructions and the custom memories. Then it also created our CPTs for us. So let's go ahead and check it out in the WordPress website. So let me go back from the dashboard, go to Novamira, and then we check out memory and instructions. And you can see that it has created a couple of memory for us. So automatically it does the memory. Then if we go under skills, let's see if we added any new skill. Okay, so it created a new skill for us called the UAC project context. So that's a new skill. And we can check the sandbox if there's anything. So there is no PHP file yet because we don't really do anything. So this shows that it created all of our CPTs using MetaBox. Because if they had created them using a PHP file, then we'll have seen it under the sandbox. And we can see that the CPTs are registered. We have partners, sponsors, we have sessions and speakers. If we go into MetaBox and post types, we can see those post types registered correctly. If you go into any of them, you see that everything was registered well. So we have the plural name, singular name, slug. It was all registered correctly. If you go under taxonomies, let's see if there were some taxonomies like the type of partner, sponsor, tier, and so on. Under the custom fields, if we open any of them, let's say the session details, you see that it had all of the session details all populated correctly. So this is how we can quickly set up our project, the scaffolding of how our data content is for our project with ease. It only took a couple of minutes and we are good to go. The next thing we may want to do is try to add some content, because right now we don't have any content. If you go into partners, there are no content there. If we go into sponsors, nothing. So it's still a blank slate. So now let's ask Novamira to add some content into each of these CPT fields. So I'll go back to my Claude Code and ask it to add some demo content for us. So I'll say something like, using the already defined CPT structure, please populate the site with some realistic demo content. Add some demo speakers, sessions, and any other related post types. Then add a placeholder featured image from an external source like Pexels, and add some body content as well. Okay, so now it has verified and run through all of the tasks, which we can go ahead and check out. Then let's look at it on the WordPress backend. So right now it's empty. If I refresh, we see that we now have new sponsors. If we go into sessions, we have new sessions. And if I open any of the sessions, you can see it has everything. So it has the post title, some description, a featured image. Then it has some extra content like the session details and so many other information. So we can easily see the information and verify that they are all okay. So one other thing we might want to do is now go ahead and tell Novamira to look at our images and basically put them into folders in happy files and also verify that the images fit the description of their posts. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'll go back to Novamira and maybe I should just open a new session. So it has a fresh context and I'll say, using Novamira MCP, please check all of the newly created posts for different CPTs. Check that their featured images match with their post title. If the images don't match the post title, please download a fresh image and replace as the featured image. Then help me use the Happy Files folder to organize all of the images into appropriate folders. Okay, so now it has come up with some questions about how we can improve it. So I'll say, yes, replace with topical images. Then sponsors and partners are fictional organizations. So generate text-based image logos, or let's say we can use some themed abstract images. And yeah, maybe let's say it should come from a splash this time. And okay, so we can leave them alone. For the speakers, I think they all look okay. And now it has finished all of our tasks. So let's go ahead and verify. So at the moment, we can't see any folder, but let me refresh. And you see now we have folders for partners, we have the sessions, we have the speakers and the sponsors. Everything was pulled in correctly. So if we had all of these images maybe saved locally somewhere or on another website, we can just tell Novamira to check that website and pull in the images from the website. So it can do that as well, and it will organize them in the right folders. So we've had everything done. Then the next step we can do now is we can now start actually working with our page builder. So maybe something like Bricks or Elementor or whatever page builder that you're working with. In this example, we're working with Bricks. So the first task I will try to tell you to do is import my CSS classes and variables into Bricks. Maybe I don't have something like ACSS or Core Framework, and I'm importing my CSS framework manually. So let's see how we can easily do that. So I will head over back to my Visual Studio Code, and what I will now do is I will head over to my file structure, and I have something in the local assets called the classes CSS. So just basically a simple CSS framework, and I have the variables CSS. So what I want to do is to tell Novamira to import all of these CSS into my Bricks builder, because let's go ahead and verify first before we start. If you go under Bricks, so one of the pages, let's say the home page, I edit that page. If you go into the styles, you see that at the moment there is no style attached because it's a fresh install. So no categories, no classes, no variables, no colors except the default colors, and no typography, nothing. So everything is blank. So now let's go ahead and inform Novamira to import our CSS framework. Okay, so let's exit from here and I will head over back to my Visual Studio Code, go into my Claude Code, and let's start a new session. And I'll say something like, read the design tokens from the local assets folder, that is my variables and classes, and then register the CSS variables, the classes, the colors, and all of the other global styles, mapping them to the correct values. Then I would also want you to check the .wrapper class and then add it as the container CSS styles. Also remember that the HTML should be changed from 62.5% to 100% for the HTML font size. Without me even informing it, it already knows that it is for bricks, although I didn't mention bricks in the question, but it knows that the page builder is bricks. So it has already picked it up that it's bricks. It's now trying to go ahead and put in all of those classes, variables, and styles for bricks. So now let's go ahead and verify that everything works as expected. So I'll go ahead and I'll refresh the page, make sure we are on the latest page, go under the styles, and we can see under the global styles that there's condition sets for the entire website, and the name of the theme style is called UAC base styles. Then if you go under general, you can see that it has applied my site background color from my global CSS. It has also applied the typography and set the HTML font size to 100% like I asked. The body, it has added all of the styles like the color, the font size, and so on, as I put in my theme styles within that local style sheet. It has also added my elements. I told it to add the wrapper class as my container styles. So if you go under container, you can now see that it added the styles for the width, 100%, the max width, and the padding. So everything was added well. If you go under classes, you can see we have two types of classes, the utility class and the component classes. It added those successfully. If we go to the variables, you can see that it generated all of the variables and even put them into categories. So nice names that we can remember. If you go to colors, it replaced the default colors with the proper colors that we need for our project. And yeah, so everything just works. So we can start working on our project. So the next thing we'll now test out is actually using the Novamira to add bricks elements onto the page. So for that, I'm going to do two things. First, I'll verify that we have a browser MCP installed, something like Playwright or Chrome DevTools or Firefox DevTools MCP. Then I'll feed it the URL of a page. So let me say something like this example. An example of this page is to just recreate the hero section. And then I'll also give it some other styles from another website and see if it can pick up those styles. So let's start with this style, and we'll first verify that the browser MCP exists in our AI agent. So I'll go ahead and create a new session. And I'm just going to say, please verify that we have access to the Playwright MCP. Then it will check. If there is no Playwright MCP, then it will try to install it. Okay, so no Playwright MCP. Then can you install it? Okay, so let's say installed to the user scope. Okay, so now it's registered. I'll go ahead and I'll create a new session for my Claude Code so that I can pick up the right MCP. So start a new session, and now if I do /MCP, you can see that now we have Novamira and the Playwright MCP. So the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and feed it the URL for the page I want. I'll say using the Playwright MCP, check the hero section from this URL and create this section in my home page using Bricks via the Novamira MCP. So it will go ahead and it will browse the page using Playwright. Then it will go ahead and take like screenshots if necessary, and it will just do everything that is needed. And now everything has been completed. Let's go ahead and test it out. So this was the source material that I used. I believe this page was built using build areas. So it's not a Bricks website, but let's go over to the Bricks site. And this is the home page. Let's go ahead and refresh, reload. And you see we have an identical hero section. So if I go ahead and preview on the front end, you see it is identical. Only thing that maybe the screen is a little bit zoomed in. So if I zoom back out, you see that it matches. Both of them match. So it took it the way it should be, and everything just works as expected. We can also go ahead and do another test with another website. So let's look for another website like Nick's website. And I'll say maybe I liked the way he did the testimonial cards. So I'll feed the URL to Novamira. So I'll go back to my Claude session and I'll create a new session. And let's say this time I'll say, please browse this website and check the testimonial section. Help me recreate that section as my speakers loop in the home page using Bricks. So it will use the Playwright MCP again, which is the browser MCP that it has, and it's going to check the page out, inspect how the page looks like, then it will go ahead and try to recreate the page, or at least the section that I told it to get. So it will basically take a snapshot of that section, make sure it understands how the section looks like, and then it will recreate it in Bricks. Now that the AI agent has finished doing its thing, let's go ahead and refresh the page and make sure that everything works. And as you can see, we have our card. And if we hover over the icon, we get the hover effect. I think that's similar to their card. Although theirs is a lighter background, but you see it's basically similar. You hover over the icon and we get a new icon. One thing I did notice though while building out the page is that the Bricks icons or the Bricks SVGs are a bit complicated to work with because you have to sign a code, and we can't sign the code via the MCP currently. You have to manually go ahead and sign a code. So I had to default that it should use the file. So it basically downloaded the file, installed the Safe SVG plugin to make sure that this SVG is safe. Then it uploaded the SVG and used it as my loop. But let's go ahead and check out the page and see if we can see what was built in. So if we go into the page and we go into the block, we can see it used an image element. For the image, it had the inner block, and that inner block had the heading, the basic text and it has the SVG. But it had to use the file SVG and then choose the source of the file. It could not use the other one, which was code. So that's something that we have to note. Okay, so here we have it. So it was able to build out the section how we wanted. You might need to prompt it to do some refinement. So maybe something's missing or something is not right. You tell it to refine and everything should work out just fine. The final step now is we have our page. Let's see how we can now move it to the live site and what happens when we move to the live site. So for the staging to live development, I'm going to be using the admin and site enhancement plugin. So if we go under the tools and under enhancements, we can see under utilities that we have the site backup and migration. So that now opens a new option for us. If I choose that option, what I'll do is I'll say I want to sync, and I want to sync the local site to the live site. Since my local site is on my computer, I have to use the push option. If the local site was like on a staging server that is external, then I could use either the push or the pull. But since it's local, the external site cannot get access to my internal computer, so it wouldn't be able to pull, but it can push. So yes, I'm just going to push. And to push, what we need to do is go to our site that is on the remote server, then go to your tools and you go to the backup and restore. So the plugin has to be installed on both places. Then we'll go to the sync option as well, and we'll copy the site key and make sure that you have the permissions to allow for pushing. So I'll go back to my site, then paste the remote site and say I want to push. So that is replace the remote data with our current local data, and I want to just push everything. So push the database, push media library, push the themes and the plugins. That's because I don't have some of the plugins installed there. I didn't install like Save SVG was installed locally. It's not in the remote site, so we have to push everything. So I'll go ahead and start sync, click OK. Then it will run through the process of syncing the site. Once that's done, I'll just go back and I'll log into the site again because new data has entered. So once I refresh, it will ask me to log in again. So I'll log in and we'll continue from there. And here on the live site, you'll notice one warning sign that it says Novamira AI abilities were disabled because the site domain changed. So this is the thing that you need to remember, that it is safe to leave the plugin on the live site because it will automatically deactivate the plugin on the live site. You see that the abilities have been turned off, but it still works. Everything still works. So you use your Novamira on your local development site, build whatever you want, and then just push to the live site. The moment it gets to the live site, because the Novamira is bound to the URL, it will automatically deactivate. So in the live site, just continue as normal, but on your local development site or your staging site, you can use the AI tools as you wish, so that in case anything breaks, it only breaks on the local development site. You can easily revert quickly. Once everything is nice and fine, you now push to your live site and it all just works. So yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you've learned something. As the Novamira is working on the project, it is always saving any errors it finds into memory so that it can always fix it. So that's one nice thing about Novamira, that as it's working with your AI agent, it is saving whatever fixes it finds into memory. And because it's saving it into the shared memory in Novamira, you can start using Claude Code, then switch over to Codex, and everything will still be shown to Codex because the memory and everything is shared. The skills, the memory, and everything is shared among all of them. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.